you want to hear some music? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Well, today you're going to get all the music you want.
The request lines are now open. KGFJ Soul Radio.
Do it now, man.
Request lines are up.
It's open, man.
Got any Blue Oyster Cult?
No, I don't have any Blue Oyster Cult. I ate 34 pairs last time around. Where were you? I was that close to working at 7-Eleven, you know.
Pass the word along. Tell the men it's time to shoot the moon.
Shoot the moon!
Not out there on the microphone. On the microphone.
Shoot the moon. Shoot the moon.
The attitude dictates that you don't care whether she comes, stays, lays, or prays. I mean, whatever happens, your toes are still tapping.
Hey, Strawberry! Oh, Strawberry. Hey, what's happening, man? How you doing? This is my friend.
Hey, how you doing, man?
What you looking at, man?
Oh, nothing. I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking at his neck, man.
Can you honestly tell me that you forgot the magnetism of Robin Zander or the charisma of Rick Nielsen?
That's kid stuff.
Kid stuff. Well, how about the tunes? I want you to want me. The Dream Police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Build your muscles picking strawberries. You know, Band and Scoop. Maybe I could get you a job with United Fruit. I got a buddy with United Fruit. Start with strawberries, you might work your way up to these goddamn bananas. When, boy, are you gonna get your act together?
We're creating a society of cell phone crazed, marijuana smoking zombies.
Coming to you not quite live from Lukewarm Tallboy Studios deep in the land of Gar, this is Bend and Scoop, the podcast featuring music, mirth, and minutia, focused on exposing artists you probably haven't heard, but should. I'm Bob, and I'll be your tour guide on this amazingly asymmetric auditory adventure as we journey to the center of your cochlea. Welcome to episode 47, which is also how many years it's been since At the Drive-In and Mars Volta frontman Cedric Bixler Zavala was born. Joining us at the end of the show to play a round of Is That Your Vinyl Answer? And the Groovin' After Party will be our very special guest, Rhylan Rowe from the Human Dads podcast. We spread the gospel of vinyl here at Bend and Scoop, so be sure to tell us all about your favorite neighborhood record store by posting to @BendScoop on Twitter or Instagram using the hashtag #SpinMomAndPop. Our record store of the week is Matt Anthony's Record Shop. You can follow them on Twitter at DJ Matt Anthony, on Instagram at record_shop, on Facebook at Matt Anthony's Record Shop, and you can check out their website at djmattanthony.com. Every now and then we'll play a twofer by artists from the same city. But since we've got 4 artists from Seattle on this episode, let's kick things off with a double twofer, starting with This Queen from 2009's Message to Garcia, and this age-old debate, Jimmy versus James, here on Bend and Scoop. Body Chamber there by Versing from their 2017 album, which shares a name with yet another Seattle-based band, Nirvana. Pausable Deniability is a monthly podcast I co-host with my pal David Miller, which you can follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Pause Deny. We post new episodes on the first day of every month. The third of our 4 Jet City artists, Stag, released a great album back in 2017 called Midtown Sizzler. Pretty sure I used to eat there a lot back in the 70s, which opened with this appetizing track, Pharaoh, on Bend and Scoop.
Where would you look if there was nothing to find? And where would you sleep if there was nowhere to hide? No signs of life weighing you down. No signs of life to figure you out. How can you speak when there's nothing to say? And how can you breathe when it's been taken away? No signs of life weighing you down. No signs of life to figure you out, figure you out. Standing there like a pharaoh, arms crossed like a pharaoh. Standing there like a pharaoh. What can you do with daylight fading away? And what should we dream before the end of the day? Standing there like a pharaoh, arms crossed like a pharaoh. Standing there like a pharaoh, arms crossed like a pharaoh.
This is not the car I ordered. I distinctly ordered the Antarctic Blue Super Sports Wagon with the CB and the optional Rally Fun Pack.
You didn't order the Metallic P?
Metallic P? No, Antarctic Blue. The sports wagon. This isn't even the right model.
You know, I think you're right. I don't think this is the car. This is the new Wagon Queen family truckster. This is a damn fine automobile, if you want my honest opinion. Beats the hell out of the sports wagon, but I want to make you happy. I'll get to the bottom of this. Mr. Griswold ordered a blue sports wagon. Where is it?
I don't know, sir.
I know what must have happened. It didn't come in.
Ed, I'm not your ordinary everyday fool, okay? Now, I'd like my Antarctic Blue Super Sports Wagon right now, and if you can't get it for me, I'm going to take my business elsewhere.
I'm just as upset as you are, believe me. I can get you the wagon. There's no problem there. The problem is it might take 6 weeks. Now, I owe it to myself to tell you, Mr. Griswold, that if you're thinking of taking the tribe cross-country, this is the automobile you should be using, the Wagon Queen family truckster. You think you hate it now, but wait till you drive it.
Closing out our Seattle double twofer there is Changing by the Moondoggies from their 2016 LP, Don't Be a Stranger. Campfire Songs is a podcast where I get together with my buddies Todd, Jim, and Tom to share and discuss songs with each other. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Songs Campfire and give us a listen for more great music. Let's depart the Pacific Northwest and head cross-country all the way to NYC for this rocker by Baby Shakes off their 2019 record Cause a Scene called Down here on Bend and Scoop.
With the Martian Chronicles. The K-Tim Crazies have already landed in your backyard.
KTIM, KTIM FM, San Rafael.
Shut up, pipe down. I told the fool
That's the late great Kim Shattuck of the Muffs with her final project, The Coolies, and a song called Ignoramus, which may or may not be about Harold's lesser-known brother. How Many is a podcast where I get together with my friends Jesse, Junior, Gary, and Scott to debate a variety of pop culture topics, including movies, sports, TV, music, and more. You can follow How Many on Twitter at HowManyPodcast and listen at HowManyPodcast.com, where you can hear us discuss the greatest American bands in our latest episode. From Christchurch, New Zealand comes Salad Boys, with this one from 2018's This Is Glue called Psych Slasher on Bend and Scoop.
Sorry, folks, park's closed. The moose out front should have told you.
Yes, we're here to see Mr. Roy Wally.
What is your name, sir?
Clark W. Griswold.
What's this regarding, Mr. Grizzle?
We're here for public amusement relations, or a summer inspection to a personal matter. Inspection.
Well, nobody notified this office of anything.
Well, I'm notifying you.
I'm afraid I'm gonna need a little more than that, sir.
Okie dokie. How's this?
Clark, have you lost your mind? Where did you get that?
Sporting goods store, honey. Now you listen to me, fat ass. You do what I say and there won't be any problem, okay? Okay. We just drove 2,460 miles just for a little Roy Wally entertainment. The moose says you're closed. I say you're open.
We're not really violent people. This is our first gun.
Street lights, city people, choke lines, the my people, mud, bud, thugs, punks and queers. An old man has got habits. Downtown, it goes rapid. Cheese, cream, cheese, meat is here. But there's a place in my heart, a city life, it gets hard. It's crime, it's grind, it's slime, fights and fears. And there's always tears. the bones. On my bones. The street tough, keep walking. Those boys ain't just talking, their steel is real, they kill for one of their own. But the whole world's a disaster right now, man, no one matters. All being leveled in time for the killing fields. You ain't right, come and stay in my home. Little spiders, nothing left but the bones.
That was Spiders, minus the kid smoke, by the memorably named Memphis-based Harlan T. Bobo from his 2018 album, A History of Violence. Have you ever wanted to host a podcast? Well, all you have to do to join the Mike Hunt and host your very own episode of Assume the Juxtaposition is send me your topic idea to lukewarmtallboy@gmail.com. You can follow Assume the Juxtaposition on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at AssumeTJPod. And don't forget to stick around for the end of the show, when we'll be joined in the Groovin' After Party by our special guest, Rhylan Rowe, from the Human Dads podcast. Washington, D.C.'s Flasher released their second album, Constant Image, back in 2018, featuring this great track that is not a Billy Joel cover, Pressure, here on Bend and Scoop.
Here's news from RCA Victor. an amazing record wear test that proves how important a fine record changer can be. Part of this record's been test played over 3,000 times. This one's brand new. Listen to it. Racing with the moon. Now, listen to and compare this record that's been played over 3,000 times. Racing with the moon. Sounds great, doesn't it? A specially made record? No. What's special is it's been played on a brand new RCA Victor Studiomatic changer. The changer that protects your records two ways. Protects them on the spindle, protects them in the groove. Protect and enjoy your records on the new Studiomatic changer in RCA Victor Total Sound Stereo.
Stop doing that and try to do this. Tell it to cities, one rich and one poor. It's an ancient story, you've heard it before. Let your head down on the dance floor. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Why try to do this? Stop doing this. Make it your mission to do what you can. Move it on over. The funk is out of town. Control your own thoughts. Walk your own talk. Stop doing that. Stop doing that and try to do this. Take your left foot and shake it all around. Move your right foot to the other side of town. Move a little closer and back again. Move it on over. Move over. Move it on over. Move over. And over and over. It's over, it's over. And move it on over. It's over, it's over. Move it on over. It's over, it's over. Wow! Stop doing that. Stop doing that. And try to do this. Start doing this. Happy, unhappy. How will it end? Try to do this. Compare and contrast. Make it your mission to do what you can. As long as we're moving, we'll be back again. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop doing this. Stop doing that. 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 Try to do this. Stop doing that. Try to do this. Stop doing that.
From Athens, Georgia, that's Pylon Reenactment Society with Cliff Notes. The Cliff Notes on their history is they were formed when Pylon's original lead singer joined a local Pylon cover band, and they eventually decided to start recording all new music inspired by Pylon. Remember to be sure and check out our Bend and Scoop Spotify playlist. If we played it and they have it, you can listen to it there. And if you enjoy listening to what we do here on Bend and Scoop, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. As spring gradually turns to summer over the next several weeks, we can all start wistfully thinking about where we'll be going this year for vacation.
This summer, when you think vacation, think National Lampoon's Vacation. See the real America.
Hey, underpants. Hey, yellow.
It's friendly.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Don't you want to look at the Grand Canyon?
It's educational. Great. And most of all, it's fun.
The dog went on the picnic basket.
Let Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo,
Mark.
Imogene Coca, Randy Quaid, John Candy, and Christy Brinkley.
Well, are you gonna go for it?
This is crazy, this is crazy, this is crazy. Take you for a ride. This summer, when you think vacation, think National Lampoon's Vacation.
Better check under the hood.
People listen to people. So listen, people.
Welcome to the Groovin' After Party. Come on in and pour yourself a cold one.
Joining me now for our Groovin' After Party here on Bend and Scoop is Rhylan Rowe from the Human Dads podcast. Welcome, Rhylan.
Good to see you, Bob. How is everything?
Everything's good. How about yourself?
Well, I'm astounded someone wanted to have me on their show where they control the content and are therefore responsible for the quality. So
Not as astounded.
Move along at your own risk, but here we are. Let's party.
Not as astounded as I am that someone actually agreed to be on my show. So
isn't that weird, right? Like I've done a lot of these over the years, different podcasts about different things. And the thing that always blows my mind is how many people, when you say, hey, do you want to take even 10, 15 minutes to jump on, that they actually say yes. Yep. And then that's when you know, well, not a listener, but that's okay. At least they get on. So whatever, we'll take it.
Now, I do apologize for being remiss in having the other two of the three human dads on before you, but I believe we saved the best for last. So
if I'm the guy that has to run the anchor leg to carry those other two fools, then that's fine. Although they both are super funny guys, so I'm sure that they didn't disappoint you when they jumped on.
Well, both of them promoted you as the brains of the operation.
That's just ludicrous. I'm just the guy that talks the most or goes off on the most tangents. And then people think, oh, he's just got a lot going on in his head. No, I just have nothing. I'm just not prepared for the show. So I just talk about whatever comes to mind. It's a big difference. So
now we've had each of them describe Human Dads. How would you describe your podcast?
It definitely falls in the ubiquitous podcast category of guys that like to hang out with each other, recording themselves, BSing and laughing and cutting up and having a good time. But we try to put the dad spin on it. We're all about the same age, late 30s, early 40s, youngish kids. And that brings with it some unique stories and perspectives. And you can tie it back to what you experienced at that same age as your kids, or how you view the events of the world. Someone on Twitter today actually said that it was three guys that sometimes do current events, sometimes do pop culture, but are always talking about being dads. So I guess that's really kind of the best way to put it together. It's not always like a super rote dad topic, but you're going to get something at least that we think is entertaining or is funny to us, and maybe get a little dad flavor mixed in there. And sometimes it's just because dads have a certain aesthetic, as you're well aware, that we've earned over the years, that we inject into our analysis of everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of dad bod, it's a dad pod.
Yeah. I don't know why we didn't just call it the dad pod. You think there's someone out there already doing that? I bet there is.
I don't know, but if not, probably might not be too late for a rebrand.
Hey, if we do, you get 18 to 20% of everything we get from that, because branding is everything.
Look forward to that. So we'll do that in Dogecoin or whatever we can arrange.
Is Dogecoin supposed to pop off tomorrow, or did I infer that incorrectly from the tweeter? I'm not keeping up, so I couldn't tell you.
Honestly, it only has been in the last week or so that I realized Dogecoin wasn't just a bit.
I know, right?
I thought literally all this time it's just been a gag, like that it's actually just a real currency, just like a real crypto, just like Bitcoin. But
it's wild.
It is. And NFTs and all these things. I'm still trying to catch up with Atari, to be honest with you. I'm not as technically savvy as you kids today.
Stick with the 2600. I'm a little young, but my understanding is that the 5200 was a bit of a disappointment. So if you stick with the OG, everything will be fine. You'll just be happy for the rest of your life.
Yep. Best Christmas present I ever got to this day.
Oh, everybody's older brother that I knew had one, and it was like the best thing. You'd go to the house and they'd have it there, and it was just, everyone stopped down. It's pretty crazy being that little when all that was happening and how new it all was to everybody.
Oh yeah. God, man. Magic. Those were the days.
Absolute magic. Somebody
hands me a Xbox controller and I glaze over at the number of buttons and triggers and joysticks.
And this, Bob, is how you talk about video games on a dad podcast. You say, I can't push all the buttons. I'm with you. Like the buttons are sometimes they're a little too much.
It's overkill. I want a joystick and a button
or two,
maybe
tops.
Two. I can handle a second button, but when you've got 8 of them and they're color coded and they each have a different letter or a symbol on them, and I'm supposed to be in real time calling plays and making moves and doing, and I just, anytime I play somebody like Madden or something, it's pointless. I'm like, I can't. It's
past our primes, way past our primes.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, well, let's talk a little bit about your own personal musical journey. I'm sure,
I love this.
Over the years, you have enjoyed all forms of music. And let's start with what the first record was that you ever bought. Do you remember? And was it a CD, a tape,
first
album?
Record I ever bought? The first album I ever bought was actually on cassette. And it was the Batman soundtrack to the first Michael Keaton Batman.
Prince.
Which was a Prince album.
Yeah.
And I saw that movie in the theater between 3rd and 4th grade. And the scene with the Joker in the art museum, and they are spray painting all the paintings, and he's playing Prince on a boombox. And I was like, I have to have a copy of that song. Now, many years later, I would learn that not only was that a very wheelhouse type of, Prince has obviously very many voices that he takes, but that one was the voice that is part of his sort of Morris Day in the Time voice also.
Yeah.
which is another one of the tangents that I went down when I went down the Prince rabbit hole. But that right there, I bought it because I'd heard Bat Dance on the radio and I loved that song in the movie. And that cassette, Bob, put my life on a path because Prince is a minor prophet in our house. Prince is the guy. Like that thing just started me off. And that wasn't even a very good album by his standards. But that was the first one I got. And I can honestly say it impacted my life because music, I'm a huge music fan, very into music, all genres, all types, with few exceptions. And that was the first really conscious decision that started it all. I do remember being in kindergarten and going to buy a 45 at the local whatever shop that happened to sell records. And I'm trying to remember now. Oh, it was a popular country song at the time by Dan Seals, late of Seals and Crofts, called Bop, which was a kind of almost a revivalist song. It was a nostalgia song in 1985 or 6. And I was a little kid and I thought it was a catchy song and I bought the 45. So that is the asterisk on my Prince album, but those are the two I remember.
Nice. Now, did you buy the cassette of the Batman soundtrack at that same place?
No, I think I got that one at a Walmart.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you by any chance still have either that tape or that 45?
I'm pretty sure I still have the tape.
Nice.
I'd have to run into the closet in here to check, but I'm pretty sure. If I have that, I will, when you tweet about this podcast episode, I will reply with a picture of that cassette if I have it. I think it's in there.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That was a really good soundtrack. And I will stand by that movie. That was a good movie.
I love the Tim Burton Batman.
Yes.
Tim Burton Batman with Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton at the time, at that time was in between being kind of a popular movie star and not like super leading man type guy, and he's done more like interesting movies since then, but also some questionable choices.
Yeah.
He was coming off of like Mr. Burton, Mom or something at that time. And then you throw Tim Burton in the mix.
He's very hit or miss. Like Batman was great, but he ruined Dark Shadows and Willy Wonka. But Edward Scissorhands is a genius, is a brilliant piece of work. I mean,
and at the same period, came out in the same period as that first Batman or film. So he was obviously, on his game at that time. But it was
definitely
his whole kind of weirdly dark aesthetic just really fit the comic book Gotham City. And I'm not a big comic guy or superhero movie guy really at all. I like Star Wars like every other person with a heartbeat just about. But as far as like all the Marvel and all that other stuff, I'm not really into any of it. But that Tim Burton Batman in '89 just hit. I just loved everything about it.
It really was. And it was kind of that time too, that late 80s. It had a lot of that aesthetic in there as well, almost like a noir kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really good. That was really good. Now, you mentioned Prince being kind of your musical guru, your guidepost. Do you have more of his albums than anyone else?
Yeah, but that's he floods the zone. He's a
volume shooter.
He's a big time volume shooter. So if you're into Prince at the level I'm at, you're going to have more of him and his associated acts and artists and people he's written for and produced than anybody else, just because there's so much output. So I do have a ton of his stuff. Definitely more. I wish I had the numbers on hand for you, but I know it's in I keep a library of probably, I moved everything off of, CDs and all the other old media some years ago. And then obviously since then I'd still download. I don't stream. I can get into there's probably no reason to belabor why I do that. But like my whole collection now is probably something on the order of 15 or 16,000 songs. And I bet that Prince is probably good for at least 500 or 600. I mean, maybe more. I'd really have to look into it, but he's just insane with the amount of stuff he put out. And then went and got, in the old and Wild West days of the internet, you could get a lot of bootlegs and stuff. And I've bought everything he's ever put on sale, so I don't feel bad for owning the bootlegs,
Yeah. Now, which Prince album is your favorite?
Parade.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Parade was a 1986 album. Was also the soundtrack to a failed movie, Under the Cherry Moon. But there was a certain type of vibe that he was hitting at that time. And it really, it shows his ability to collaborate with his band, which his his choice to collaborate throughout his career has been very hit or miss. When he wants to collaborate, you can get good stuff. Sometimes he attempts to say, hey, look, I'm collaborating. And then you barely hear the person he's collaborating with, or you don't really see their imprint on the music relative to where he's at the time in his career. But you can look at the period he had with the Revolution after Purple Rain, the 2 albums following, their influence grows with each album. And after Purple Rain, you had Around the World in a Day, and then you had Parade in 1986. And it's a short album. There are some tracks on there that are almost more ideas than they are songs, but because of the way he uses the band to compose them, and you can hear their input in the tracks, and also the fact that it was a soundtrack. And it's not a good movie, but Jerome Benton's in it, and if you're a fan of the time like I am, you love Jerome Benton regardless, and he's funny in the movie, so it just captures this very unique vibe. And the other thing about Prince during that era is all of his 12 inches were hot. Every time he would put out a single, he would also have a 12-inch maxi single where he would have an extended version of the album track that would go on for 7 to 10 minutes. And then he would have an extended version of the B-side, which was a non-album track. And that would go for 6, 8, 9 minutes. So he was feeding us the best of what he could do, I think, as focused as he was, but working with people that made him better in his band. So I really love that one. Sign of the Times would be a close second, though. Everyone talks about Sign of the Times. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, have you ever been up to Paisley Park?
No, and I really should have. Later in his career, in the early 2000s, he started to get really open with fans and having people up there, and he would host almost like fan festivals there. And it was kind of weird, he was going through one of his many phases of different religions and spirituality and things of that nature. And so he would kind of put people through like, come listen to my spiel, but you also get to come hang at Paisley. We're going to do some concerts. We're going to, do Prince stuff for a few days. And I was only like 21, 22, I think, when he was doing some of that. And I don't know why I didn't go. You ever look back on when you're younger and you were young enough to do something random because you didn't have any encumbrances, but you weren't quite old enough to realize that you could just go do it?
Yeah.
Like I think I was just getting out of school and I didn't really realize that all I had to do was just freaking buy a plane ticket and go. I hadn't quite hit that level of adulthood yet. I didn't really think it was for me. That's not for me. That's for people that live there. I can't do that. So I never went to Paisley. Wish I had, obviously, because that would have been a cool experience. I did see him in concert a handful of times.
Very cool.
So thank goodness we did all that.
That's awesome. Now, which album by any artist have you purchased the most? Whether it's deluxe editions, remastered, gifts, replacing theft or breakage, whatever it may be, multiple formats.
Well, if I go back and look at albums I owned as a child, I really only had a handful. I was very meticulous when I brought my CDs to digital, so I don't really have any duplication there. So you really have to look at you do have to look at deluxe editions.
Yeah.
And I would have to say it would have to be, getting back to the same guy we keep going back to, it would have to be Purple Rain and Sign of the Times, only because they've both had deluxe editions in addition to the originals, and I have both on vinyl. All the other stuff I have on vinyl, Darkness on the Edge of Town by Bruce Springsteen qualifies in that as well. I've got regular, deluxe, and vinyl.
That's my favorite Springsteen album, by the way. Most people go Born to Run, Born in the USA.
No, Darkness is just, the songs are so on point in a way that he does it on Born to Run, but it's just different. That Born to Run is that whole like almost free association. It feels like he's still coming out of the 60s, even though it's 1975. It's just real. And not that that's bad. I love that album. Obviously, it's one of the best albums anyone's ever put together. But there's just a certain freedom to it, which is fun and it's great. But then when you get Darkness, it's like it's adulthood. Darkness on the Edge of Town is adulthood on wax, and he just turns on that Bruce switch like that very few people can do, that makes you feel things and see you. It's one of those albums that you listen to it and you view your own world and your own life experiences differently than you did before you heard the album.
Yeah, and there's a certain energy with that album. I wouldn't say a sinister energy, but there's definitely, it's almost like there's an air of danger that's
muted. It's a little muted and a little moody. Yeah,
Yes.
it's kind of it really feels like it was recorded in kind of a dingy, musty, poorly ventilated studio or house converted into a studio really late at night, a lot of cigarettes.
Maybe a back alley somewhere.
Yeah, just very grimy in the most complimentary way you could use that word.
Yeah, gritty.
Gritty, yeah.
Yes. Like a gritty reboot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great album.
Who among your friends and family would you say has the most vinyl, and what size is your collection currently?
It would have to be us, honestly. I only have a couple other friends that actually still have a record player. And they've kind of done what we've done. We've kind of gotten into it later.
Yeah.
In the last handful of years. Growing up, we had a little bit, but not much. It was mostly leftovers from the mid 70s that my parents had. We only just got ours going about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So probably got like 40 records.
Yeah. That's probably around the time I started reloading mine as well.
And they're all, for the most part, stuff we have already. But just that we wanted to have there in that format so that we can just throw it on for fun. The kids can go grab it and do whatever. My third grader is into all of it. So she, and we wanted to get them kind of introduced to consuming music like that, because otherwise they weren't going to have any kind of physical experience with it,
Now, do you have either currently or all time a favorite mom and pop record store that you like going to or used to like going to?
Well, it's funny because it kind of goes in eras for me.
Yeah.
Growing up, didn't have a lot of access to anything. Anyone who's the 1.5 of your listeners that have bothered to listen to our podcast, which probably has 3 listeners, and you probably have 10, 20, 30, hundreds times that many, would know that I grew up in a really rural area. So access to things like that, access to anything that could qualify as culture was tough. So when I got into my late teens, either randomly being in Austin, you get older, I made a few campus visits to UT. And so I discovered that there were used record stores. Now, granted, I was shopping for CDs back then.
Yeah.
This is 96, 97 timeframe. So I remember back then going to Sound Exchange on Guadalupe, which was featured in an MTV series at one point around that same time. And they had a ton of used stuff. And there was another one down there that I forget what it was called. Oh, it was just a disco round. They were slightly franchised, I think.
Yeah.
And there was a disco round there at the bottom of the bottom floor of the Dobie Tower, which is
I remember the Dobie.
Yeah, it's an early era. Yeah, an early era private residential tower for dorm. Which at that time it was one of the few that existed in the world, probably.
Yeah.
But by the time I was that age, they were starting to pop up everywhere. Anyway, there was one there, and both of those places were the two places where I discovered that you could just find a bootleg. In that era, that was when I was really the most into Prince and his universe that I ever was in that late high school era. And I found stuff that I had only read about on the internet and only had the internet for a couple years. So I really remember digging around through those and actually bought some vinyl back then, even though I didn't have a record player, because I didn't know if I'd ever be able to get copies of those things. This was before digital music,
Yeah.
So I grabbed a copy of a couple of random 12 inches of things on vinyl and thought, I'm going to hang on to these and do with them whatever. So those were the ones that I used to frequent as a youth. And now I just go to Josie Records. That's my place to go. And it's not a mom and pop per se because of the size of it. And they do have locations outside of Dallas now, but it's a mom and pop in terms of it's one of our guys locally that runs it. And it deserves all the love and attention that we can give it.
I think it deserves somewhat mom and pop status. Like you said, they've got another 1 or 2 locations, but that's their mothership, and it's huge, like you said. But I don't feel like it's a corporate behemoth or a big box.
No, of course not. Yeah,
it's just a supersized version of your neighborhood record store, really.
Yep.
I was just there Saturday.
That's kind of why it's my favorite place. Yeah, I haven't been in a minute. I went around Christmas time was the last time I was there. I need to go over there again.
Every time I go, I'm like, I want to spend more time because it takes forever to go through even just the tiniest section.
Yeah, if you don't have a mission, you got to have two possible options when you go. You either need to have a mission, and you're going to find what you were looking for, or it's not there, and you can do whatever, or you just have to have a time limit. You just have to say we're going to hang for an hour, and then we're gonna bail.
Yeah, you can just get lost in some of those bins.
Yeah, at the very least, budget some time to run through the new arrival section.
Yep.
Just in case there's any. That's because that's where you luck into for us, we're trying to build this like supplementary vinyl collection of stuff we mostly already have. So if you're looking for that essential album, it's going to be in the new arrival section for maybe a day or two.
Yep.
So you just go there, check everything, and then branch out. That's the strategy if you don't have a specific thing you're looking for.
That is a solid plan.
Yeah.
Rhylan, what are the socials folks can follow you and the show?
Yeah, so our show in true form doesn't really have its own social media. But people can follow me at Rhylan Rowe, RHYLANROWE on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, but unless you're interested in a random picture of my kids or barbecue once every 2 to 3 months, it's not going to do much for you. But again, it's public, so whatever. If you want to, you can. And and in terms of the podcast, we're Human Dads on iTunes, and I think Brad's got us on the Google Play app as well because he's an Android guy.
Are you guys weekly? What's your current schedule?
Yes, we try to do weekly. We try to do about an hour every week, and they usually drop on Fridays. We try to record midweek and then put it out on a Friday or maybe a late Thursday night. I can't speak for the other two guys, but I mean, I don't prepare. I just come in here and sit down and put my headset on and then wait for someone to start talking. So enter at your own risk, but we laugh, we have fun. So I would listen to it.
I mean, basically you just got to sit back and wait until Jason gives you a crack to speak in.
He is the funniest dude though. He has like, I won't always listen through to when we record. I'll kind of spot check through it and just see how it sounds. And the more of these I've done different types of podcasts over the years off and on. And the longer I go and the older and more self-aware I get, the less I want to listen to myself. I think that's probably just because I am actually older and wiser and I realize I don't sound that way anymore. But Jason cracks me up. His like comedic timing on things and his ability to insert himself when the other two of us are in our own world discussing something and he'll just drop a very subtle bomb. And then you go back and listen and realize he's actually funny. Brad and I just think we're funny. Jason, he's actually, I think, funny. So
you guys are all real funny and entertaining. And Jason, he says the exact same thing about Brad, that Brad's like the funniest guy he knows. And
he is pretty funny. Yeah, I'm giving Brad a hard time, but Brad
didn't he used to be in like an improv troupe or something.
He tried his hand at improv troupe for a while. We haven't gotten him to really talk at length about that. We should do that. But no, that's how we became friends, was clowning on stupid stuff on Twitter. It's just this community. You're a part of it. There's a lot of us that have just for many, many years now, between sports and our little funny subculture that branches off of it on Twitter, have just all become acquainted with each other and think that each other's bad jokes are funny. So let's sing the praises of the one positive thing about social media, I guess.
Yeah, Twitter may be the world's most efficient comedy delivery system.
Yeah, there's good stuff out there. If you know where to look and you can curate the noise out of it, there's still some funny stuff in there.
Yeah, there is a lot to filter out. But well, Rhylan, thanks so much for being on. I really enjoyed it. Everybody listen to Human Dads. Like you said, it's a fun listen. You'll enjoy it. No episode is the same. You get completely different stuff every time. Sometimes you guys focus on one or two topics. Sometimes it's just one
free association
after another.
Yeah,
it's great. I mean, it's never a dull moment.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that you listen enough to be able to comment, but I'm glad you had me on here because I love talking about music.
Oh yeah.
Music is my, if you take away everything else and all the things I have to do for responsibility, and then you take away, the fact that I have a family and friends and human beings in my life, the number one thing probably in my whole life is music.
Yeah,
Like,
and I came to that realization.
I'm a music guy.
A few years ago that as much as I love sports and TV, movies, everything, if I could only have one, it's music. I'd do without everything else.
Yep.
And it's not even close.
take away all the obligations, and the number one recreational thing on the charts is probably always going to be music for us.
Yep. Well, buddy, thanks again, and we will definitely be listening to Human Dads moving forward. Take care, man.
Give it a run. I hope you guys like it. Thanks for having me, Bob.
Bye-bye, lard-ass.
Bend and Scoop is a production of Lukewarm Tallboy Studios.
We will return tomorrow morning with the sun.
Good evening, and have a good life.